That's the thing. You get to meet these people, and hopefully you're not disappointed. And they turn out to be these remarkable human beings who just take you beyond what you ever imagined it would be like to work with them or know them.
Life Reimagined with Stacey Ray.
Before we start this very exciting episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and follow us so you never miss an episode of Life Reimagined. Something you may not know about me is that I was a Knots Landing addict. I mean, back in the 80s, I never missed an episode. Okay, one. But in any event, can you imagine how thrilled I am to introduce you to today's guest? I have the one and only Constance McCashin, who played Laura Avery on Knots Landing, who completely changed her life after she left acting. This is a big day for me. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
I am so pleased to meet you. I can't even begin to tell you. I am fascinated by your decision to switch the trajectory of your career and your life to mental health. I think that is outstanding, not to mention exciting. What made you decide that that was the right path for you after you decided to leave acting?
Well, I got old, darling. So I needed to find
Yeah.
another tangible skill.
You
Um,
know, we talk about that all the time. Like in my business, it's all about mature women and how invisible the world wants us to be. And all of a sudden we have no value. And I refuse to accept that. And what's interesting, I think, which you certainly know much better than I do, in the creative field, especially in acting, like you hit 40 and all of a sudden we have nothing for you as a
Unless you're
woman.
English and your name is Mirren or Dench or
Or
Maggie Smith.
Maggie Smith.
God rest her
Yeah.
soul. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Why do you think that is?
Because I think in the UK, it's a real craft. It's a respected craft. And I think that as women age there, they're not as disposable, you know. It's just a different ethos, I think.
And I think you're right because I love British movies, TV,
Procedurals, British procedurals, the best.
procedurals. That's right. And their talent is beyond. I mean, listen, Maggie Smith, how can you compare anyone to Maggie Smith? Dame Maggie Smith.
These women have this rich history, particularly in the classics, where they were probably playing older than their age back in the day, and then age sort of morphed into whatever was right for the part or the play.
Yeah.
So I just think it's such a different approach to aging, which is true in a lot of countries. You know, there's a line in Auntie Mame where I think someone asks her friend Vera, "How old are you?" And she says, "Darling, I'm between 40 and death." So that's a great answer.
It is a great answer.
We become obsolete after the menopause. Oh, you
Right.
can't bear children anymore? Okay, you're dead to me. And
Right.
it's unfortunate because we're living longer. All of us are living longer. And we're
Mhm.
not retiring because that's really boring. Of course, there's only two jobs you can do, at least as a female, and your age is an asset. One is a Supreme Court justice, and one is a therapist.
That's
It's
wow.
it. It's it. Where your
Yeah.
age is, people look at you and they think, well, she's got credibility.
So, how old were you supposed to be portraying when you were Laura Avery on
I,
Knots Landing?
I mean, I guess whatever age sort of vintage I was, when I got the part, I had done another pilot in a short-lived series for the creator. And then he gave me the part on Knots Landing. I went to his house for Christmas, a little Christmas get together, and he handed me the script. And all he said to me was, "She wears a lot of pastel colors." I went, "Oh, well, that's really helpful." And that was it. So I didn't really have a lot to go on at all.
So you created the character
Well, I
and
mean, you do what's appropriate for the writing. She was kind of a subjugated housewife to a rather nasty second-rate lawyer.
Yes. So let me say this. I never remember missing an episode except one.
You must have been in preschool, darling.
Well, no, not at all. But I will tell you, the episode that I missed, still, I'm angry about it. It was the start of the season, 1985, and it was the, season opener, and I was in the hospital for emergency surgery to remove my gallbladder. And so I was out of surgery and we had a TV in the room, and all I kept saying is, "Oh my God, tonight is the opening night." And we had a hurricane warning. And so what did they do with all of us? They moved us in our hospital beds into the effing hallway of the hospital, and I missed it. And to this day, I'm mad about it because it was like the only episode. But the thing that I have started doing now, when it started coming out where you could stream all the seasons, the difference in how I perceive it now and then is so different. But what a piece of what Richard was. Oh my God.
Well, he was a good actor. He did play Lee Harvey Oswald in the movie about the assassination of Kennedy. So I guess he had some chops there. He's still,
Yeah.
I'm actually seeing John next week, and I see him fairly often when we're in California. He's, he's really smart. He's a really, oh my God. One of my doctors is calling me. Whoops.
Well, that's okay.
A foot doctor. So unsexy. So unsexy. Oh my
I
goodness
mean, like the
gracious.
audiologist appointment I made this morning
You
because
know, I
I can't hear
I know
anything.
this is a chronic conversation. Oh my God. This is what we're going to spend the next 90 minutes about, talking about audio.
No, no,
This is
no.
so we're becoming our parents. We used to say, "Oh my God, Mom, with the pills already and the different doctor's appointments. I took you for the cataracts. Now we're going to the podiatrist." And then she had a drink in between and whatever. So and now I've become my mother, not with the drinking,
You
but
know
with
what? People would ask, my father was from the South, a real Southern gentleman, but people would ask him, "How are you?" And he would tell them.
big mistake.
And we'd be like, "Dad, nobody wants to hear that." And he'd go, "But they asked me." And we're like, "No, Dad, we're in Jersey. That's like, how you doing? Okay?
Tony
How you doing?"
Soprano. Tony
And I'm like,
Soprano doesn't care how you
we
are.
don't want to know how you're doing.
Oh my God.
Now you are Northeastern as well, right?
I grew up in Connecticut.
In Connecticut. Did you have siblings?
I had one sister. So my sister had Down syndrome. So she was 7 years younger than I am. So here we are in the bathtub, nothing untoward here in the picture. But the expression on her face is so sweet.
Oh my gosh. She's so precious. Like,
Oh,
I love
she was great.
you.
She was great.
Did she pass away recently
She
or?
passed away just before the pandemic in 2018.
It's hard to lose your sister. I know. I lost mine in 2014, 10 years ago on Christmas Eve, unexpectedly. Just dropped it.
My sister it lived to be 65, which the average age of a person with Down syndrome now is 70. So people
Right.
are under the misconception that people who have Down syndrome don't live a long life. But in fact, that's not true anymore.
Well, and back in the day, doctors were telling parents, put them in an institution.
Well, that's what the doctor told my mom in 1954. Put her away and forget you ever had her. But my mother was such a feisty. She graduated from Emerson College in 1937, which is a well-known theater college here in Boston.
Right.
And she was a pisser. She used to say, Constance, the men were wearing makeup then. So anyway, so she had a radio station. She was a producer of a summer theater. She really made the best of her time there. And then she ended up working in New York City in the retail business. But when my sister was born, my mother was about to turn 40, as I was when I had my daughter. So I did a whole number on my head with that. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And the doctor said, in all seriousness, you should really just forget you had her, which is what, you can't condemn a parent for doing that, because back
No.
in those days, there were
That
so
was-
many there was so much misinformation and
Yes.
such a lack of education
Yes.
and advancements in this area. But my mother, again, didn't. My mother was amazing. I mean, my sister started preschool at 2 when she was toilet trained. She had speech therapy. She traveled. She graduated from high school. She was an extra on Knots Landing twice. They did her hair. She flew out alone. They did her hair, makeup, and wardrobe. People were very comfortable, and they were comfortable with me, so they were comfortable with her. Nancy had a great joie de vivre, and she was a very social. What she lacked in academic prowess, she had a
Right.
tremendous social aptitude, thanks to my mother.
Your mom sounds like she was a woman before her time.
Very much so. And she was so gorgeous. She had a pug nose, freckles, and dark red hair. And because she worked on 7th Avenue as a buyer for a store called Arnold Constable, which doesn't exist anymore, she started their sportswear department. It was on Lower Fifth, which you would know because you're from the East,
Yeah.
across from Lord and Taylor's. And my mom worked with all these lovely Jewish men. Now, my mother was Irish Catholic, but the Jewish men loved my mother because she was very exotic. She looked different.
Yeah.
And she always said, marry a nice Jewish boy. This is my Irish Catholic mom, right? So I did 47 years ago. So there you go.
How did you meet him?
I met him through Christian Slater's mother. She introduced us. She's still a friend. She was a casting person, obviously. She was my agent before that. And we were both newly arrived in LA, my husband and I. And she had an event, a small event in someone's office at a studio. And she invited both of us. I had literally just gotten there a few weeks early. He'd been there almost a year. And we walked out of the office together. He was in a big, big hurry to get somewhere. And that was it. That we just went our separate ways. And then a few weeks later, I was exiting a building in Beverly Hills to get my car. And I ran into him again because we had just signed with the same agent, but he didn't have enough money for the parking valet. So he went back in the building and borrowed money from another friend who was in the building, who ended up being our best man, who was a manager. You following this? Because I'm going to test you
Yeah.
on this after. The
Yes.
same agent that we had both signed with a few minutes apart. He goes back upstairs to borrow $5, big spender in 1978. Comes back to the parking lot. I've just exited the agent's office and come to the parking lot. Okay. The kicker is I'm 5'8". I've got my come fuck me shoes on. I've got hair down to my ass, no bra. He doesn't remember me. He doesn't remember me.
How is that
I'm like,
possible?
what? He's in a big hurry again because he's doing another musical.
Right.
And he said, well, give me your phone number. I go, well, I'm house sitting right now. I don't really have a phone. Okay, I'll give you my answering service because people had answering services. So I gave him my answering service. He called me that night. I didn't call him back for 3 days. And I finally called him back and we talked for a long, long time. And that same guy that managed Harry was having a party that night. He said, why don't you come? I go, nah. Oh, come on. I go, okay, but I'll pick you up. I picked him up and we sat outside all night. It was a birthday party for Gary Trudeau that he was having. But we sat outside and just talked all night. And I'm embarrassed to say that it's the first time I went home with somebody the night that I met them. He claims I didn't, but I did. I did go home with him.
But you would know.
I think I would know. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So that was in 1977. And then we moved in together in the beginning of 78. And we got married about a year after we met. So by a rabbi and a Franciscan.
See that? So you stomped the
We're so married.
47 years. And is he still working in the industry?
He was an actor when I met him, and then he did a
Right.
lot of TV and movies, and then he did a lot of theater. And I think the last thing he directed was a play here in the East with Lindsay Krause, which is ironic because Lindsay Krause used to be married to David Mamet, and we bought this house from David Mamet. But he had already divorced Lindsay by then and was married to Rebecca Pidgeon. So Lindsay and my husband have become very good friends because they worked together several times in a movie and in several plays. So they have a very close relationship. But the fact that we live in her ex-husband's house, you've got to take notes here. You got to take notes.
Listen,
It's
I'm just
crazy.
sitting here going,
Crazy.
wait a minute. You're getting ready to give me one of those cognitive tests, aren't you?
No. Hardly. I don't think I would do well on those anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he and Lindsay, he directed a play with Lindsay. I think that's the last thing he directed. So that would have been 7 years ago. So he used to teach at Harvard, but they disbanded the acting program there. So he hasn't been working in the business in at least 6 or 7 years.
How does that work with him retired and you're still
You
working?
know, I think I gave up my office a year ago, so I'm at home,
Mhm.
and you know, he's plays golf. We go to the desert in the winter for 4 months, 3 months, and I work remotely. And we have a lot of friends there because Bill Devane lives in the same town. That's why we ended up going there initially. And I see all my friends, and we see the people that we knew when we were in our 20s, as opposed to most people in the Boston area. With some exceptions, we've only known since we moved here in our late 40s, early 50s. We have a lot of
Right.
friends here, but they're not in Boston. You know, he came from a very poor family. He went to a boarding school on a scholarship, and then he went to Yale on a scholarship, and then he went to Brandeis for grad school on a scholarship. So he has a lot of connections here. But I was at his Yale prom, and I danced on stage with Wilson Pickett, but he doesn't remember that, even though I've told him the story ad nauseum. So we have a lot of connections in the Northeast, but most of our relationships when we were starting out in the business are in LA. I mean, they've all
Right.
obviously gotten older too, and they're
Yeah.
dealing with their own stuff, but we get to see them when we're in the desert, which is really important, you know, for both of us.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons I started my business was because, aside from the fact that my husband died and, I wanted to be able to travel and things like that. And especially with the pandemic, what I found was the social isolation was so devastating to so many people. And you have to be around people. Even, I'm an introvert in many ways, but I still need people. I still have a need for my friends and that social interaction. So good for you and for Sam, is it right? Sam Weisman.
Sam
Yeah,
Weissman, no middle
yeah,
initial, Sammy
yeah.
Weissman.
Thinking back to as I watch Knots Landing now compared to back in the day, I have like these observations, and it's like I almost look at it as like a sociological experiment about community and society. But some of the things that were so acceptable to us as the norm back then. First of all, let me say it, and I'm not saying this because you're my guest today. I'm telling you that you are my absolute favorite on the show. And to be honest, major crush on William Devane. I thought the two of you
He
were
he's
fabulous.
he is well, he's a curmudgeon now because he's like
Yeah,
85. Bill is he directed my husband in the Harry Chapin musical before I knew either one of them, which was ironic.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then I met my husband, and then I met Bill
yeah.
because they were friends. And then ironically, Bill and John Plachette did a play together when they were 25 and 28, 56 years ago. So they were friends back in the day. So then John's on Knots Landing. John's wife used to be married to the creator of Knots Landing. That's a whole other soap opera.
Oh my
And
God,
then
such
Bill
a
comes on the show after John leaves, and I have my dalliance with Lisa Hartman, allegedly. And then Bill comes on, and Bill and I don't think they intended at the beginning for us to be a couple, but we had a really nice rapport and it worked. So Bill and I really, it was wonderful working with Bill. Last year he came to visit. Oh my God. Oy. He came to visit and he stayed here, and he's so, he's such a character. My husband takes him to play golf at this thing, the country club. It's called the country club. And
okay.
not a lot of Jews. And so they go to play, thanks to this friend of my husband's, and the caddy was a big fan of Bill's. He was like 50, Irish, just loved Bill.
Yeah.
And then Bill's leaving, and he steals a towel off the some kind of a cart where they serve drinks and stuff. And my husband said, "Bill, what are you doing? What are you doing that for?" "I don't know, because I can." I mean, we still have the towel in the car. He's just so he's like a adolescent boy sometimes. I think they had a great time because
Yeah.
his wife had never been to Boston, and it was really nice. It was October. It was real. But I, when I walked down Newbury Street, which is like Boston's Madison Avenue, I felt like I was helping my mother. I mean, you know, I was like, he was so He's only 8 years older than me, but sometimes I don't know. He's just a character. But he was so
Yeah.
great to work with. So
Yeah.
great to work with. And once you won his respect, he was great. Yeah.
Well, Michelle said something that I thought was really interesting because she said that the part of Karen, they just kept writing it more and more to who Michelle was.
Of course. Well, that was smart.
Do you think they did that with Laura Avery?
I don't know. I think I certainly didn't wear a lot of pastels and I didn't consider myself a subjugated spouse, but
No.
it's called acting. So, you do
Right.
whatever you're told to do. And, it's interesting because there was an episode in the first season, I think it was the first season where I was raped. And they didn't have an intimacy coordinator in those days, which I think it's just a wonderful thing to do. And I'm sorry that they didn't exist sooner because a lot of times you're put in a compromising situation, especially as a female, but not always. Or you're asked to play the rapist or the pedophile or I don't know, the mother of the child that was raped. I don't know, anything where the intimacy piece is potentially uncomfortable or potentially loaded. And
Right.
I think having that person on the set is a valuable resource. But we didn't have that in those days. You get into bed with your tidy whities and whatever happens,
Right.
happens.
Right.
Well, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that rape episode was really difficult. I fortunately had never been raped. My daughter, unfortunately, was raped in college.
Oh
And
my God.
I mean, there have been friends of mine who had been raped. I mean, unfortunately, all of us have probably encountered some sexual assault,
Yes.
no matter what our sexual orientation. But
Right.
there was a dresser on the set, an assistant wardrobe person named Marty, who had been raped. And she was probably my age, maybe a little bit younger, but somewhere around the same age. She was so helpful and so protective of me and so empathic. Nobody used that word as much as they do today, but she
I
was very
know.
empathic, which I don't think empathy can be taught, but that's another story. And she protected me. And that's what an intimacy coordinator would do today, except they would work with the director and they would say, are you comfortable doing this? Are you comfortable? Would you rather not do this? What can we do to make you more comfortable?
So they're really almost like your advocate for you and
Right,
the
right,
story that's being
right.
told.
So I think my character evolved over the years, which was wonderful. So she had a place to go, which was great. So she started out in this one role, if you will, and then she eventually evolved and morphed into it was still her, but it was a more confident version of herself. And I think that's just good writing and
Yeah.
good directing and yeah, you write to the character. I think Bill and I had a lot of back and forth kind of repartee that was
Yeah.
maybe they wrote to that, I don't know. Maybe, I mean, I think they did because they liked, I don't know, whatever that was between us, whatever, I don't know.
It was interesting to watch. I was recently watching season 8 actually, and he was so apologetic about how he had been treating you about your pregnancy and not wanting a child and all of that. And it was like you could see he could not bear to lose you. That was not the same Greg that started on the show, who
Right,
was so
right.
flippant and what have you.
And I was really
So,
pregnant, so maybe he was being hormonally sensitive.
well, you were pregnant with your daughter then, right?
I was pregnant with my son. Yeah, and
Oh,
then
with your
then
son.
he was on the show for 5 years after that. And then I was pregnant with my daughter and then I died. Yeah.
Oh, so your son played the part of Daniel.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh.
Now he's 43 and these are his boys.
Oh my God, I saw that picture this
Yeah.
morning. Those are your
Yeah,
grandchildren?
those are my two grandsons. But then I was pregnant with my daughter, yeah. And around maybe had I already had her by then? No, maybe before I actually had her, they said, we're going to let you go and Julie and Doug Sheehan. And you picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille, to tell me this
No
now. But
kidding.
yeah, so when I shot the final stuff, she was like, I don't know, she was probably 4 months old.
What was that like for you
It sucked, baby. It sucked.
it had to have sucked. Did you feel that it was all about, them trying to save money? Did you feel like it was maybe about age? I mean, were you because your peers were in the same age group and they were still there. So like
Yeah, it was all about, I mean, they got rid of Julie, they got rid of me, they got rid of Doug, they'd already gotten rid of Alec. So by getting rid of those 4 salaries, yeah, but it was, I think it was the timing of having just had a kid where you're
Right.
hormonally all over the place. So there's, not to sound like a shrink, but analytically, there's a fine line between birth and death, right? So I just had a baby,
Yeah.
now I'm gonna die. So this is interesting. So there's a weird kind of metaphysical
Yeah.
gestalt. Oh my God, I sound like I'm from another planet. Juxtaposing those 2 elements, right?
Yeah.
Having just had a baby
Right.
and now I'm gonna die.
Did you think it was weird though that they had you like die off camera alone and
I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't remember. I suppose I was told, but I don't remember how they came up with that conceit. I have no idea. I guess it was extremely dramatic and maybe that was their aim.
I remember thinking at the time, "Ooh, she's not really dead." You know, they're gonna come up
There
with one
she
of those,
is,
like,
old as shit.
Bobby Ewing in the shower type moments, like, "Hi, I'm not dead." But alas, they really did kill off your character, which was devastating to all of us.
Yeah, it was devastating to me too. But I'm lucky. If only I could make that money doing what I do now. But I'm very fortunate in that while did another series called Brooklyn Bridge, very brief series. It won the Golden Globe and then they canceled us. And while I was doing Brooklyn Bridge, I went to graduate school. So I'd go to school at night, do Brooklyn Bridge during the day. My daughter was 3. And then I went to graduate school again here in Boston after that. And I saw the writing on the wall. I mean, I just knew that I
Right.
went to law school for 5 minutes, that was really boring, except I went during
Oh,
the
I think it would
oh,
be
it was
very.
so boring, but I went during the OJ trial, so I went to Southwest Law School where Chris Darden was a teacher,
Yeah,
Marcia Clark had gone to school there, so the crews were always around the campus.
right.
That's the only thing that made that year of law school tolerable, otherwise, it was like watching paint dry. So after 1 year of law school, I thought, "Well, I'm not gonna do that," and then I went to Pepperdine while I did the series Brooklyn Bridge, and got a master's. And then I came back here and I got another master's and a half a doctorate. And then there was a family issue. I couldn't finish my doctorate. But
Right.
oh, and I have a certificate in analysis. So be careful what you say, Stacy, because I'm going to analyze everything.
I
I'm
know.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I knew that too. There's so much more ahead right after this short break.
You may think this is just a trip. Some sunshine, maybe a glass of wine, a break from your routine. But be warned, you're not on this trip alone. Sisters are closer than they appear. Over there is a woman who's never turned down a dance floor or a dare. Here is a woman who likes the same weird cocktail you like. Right next to you is a woman who hasn't laughed like this in years. Somewhere between shared meals, shared stories, and shared silence, something shifts. You leave not just as friends, but as sisters. The kind that sneak into your heart and stay there. Find your sisters at sisterhoodtravels.com. Just remember, we warned you.
Picking right up where we left off. So you went to school, you got a master's in social work and psychology.
I got one in psych and one in social work. And then I was getting my PhD in social work when I stopped. So then I came back here. I taught acting at Brandeis while I was at social work school. And then I walked across the quad to the counseling department and I worked there for free for a while to get my hours. Social work, acting, it's all the same. And then they started paying me while I was there. And I worked
Yeah.
with a woman who had started the eating disorder program at McLean's Hospital in 1979, which is a very famous psych hospital here. And it's where James Taylor went right after high school. I learned a lot from her. I worked with her for 10 years. I mean, she lives right near me and she's a very good friend. So I became very skilled in the area of eating disorders, which, having been an actress, virtually every woman in Hollywood and a lot of men have dabbled in that arena, even if it's albeit briefly. So I saw a lot of kids who were dancers, actors, artists, and I still see a lot of people in the arts in my practice. It's probably 1/3 eating disorders, maybe a little more depending on the day, but the eating disorder is just a symptom. I mean, it is a diagnosis, but it's really a symptom of something much more under the surface. So it's not the main event. It seems like the main event, but not really.
Well, I actually know this. It's the first time I'm ever going to say this out loud in public, but I was actually hospitalized back in the day for an eating disorder
Yeah, well,
that lives with me every single day. So,
there are very few women. Very few women and a lot of men. 40% of gay men who get into their 20s and haven't flirted with an eating disorder. I mean,
right.
unfortunately, it's the biggest killer of people of any psychiatric disorder because it's a slow death. This is a charming subject.
I know, but I have a feeling that there's a lot of people that are listening to this that are going to relate.
Yeah, I mean it's in your face all the time, and
Mhm.
there was an article just in the New York Times a few weeks ago on older women and eating disorders, women over
Yes,
55,
yes,
because as Diana Vreeland said, when a woman tries to look younger, she looks older. So
I
these
agree.
women probably struggled with this back in the day, maybe successfully dealt with it for a long period of time. Maybe they had a
Mhm.
lapse or a relapse once in a while, but we all do. That's not the end of the
Right.
world. It's ironic because, as you said, we become invisible. So we're trying to make ourselves more visible in a
Yeah,
way that we feel is going to be ultimately attractive.
right.
Although some people get very bad advice, unfortunately. And
Absolutely.
then we end up killing ourselves.
And I think, for someone like myself, and on top of, the eating disorders and anxiety and OCD and body
Well, they all
dysmorphia,
go together. No, but
uh,
that's the thing. Underneath
it's a
that eating
package.
disorder is anxiety, depression, OCD.
Yes.
Then you've got the addiction to exercise. Then
Yeah.
you've got the body dysmorphic disorder, which, by the way, affects males equally as females. So just as many males don't like certain aspects of their physical self, whether it's their calf muscles or
Right.
their receding hairline or their size of their penis,
Right.
whatever it is. There's things about them they don't like. But with females, it often morphs into an eating disorder because females tend not to like their butt or their stomach or their
Right.
upper arms or their, things
Or
that,
like for me, I can look into the mirror and I don't see what the rest of the world sees,
no,
apparently.
you
I
don't.
look in the mirror and I
You don't.
go, oh my God, look at you, you whale. And apparently that is, according to other people, not a reality,
No,
but to
because your
me,
cognitive abilities have been
right.
altered. This goes for people in their early teens and middle school. It can't be measured at that young an age, but when they start an eating disorder at 11, 12, cognitively, they get this eating disorder brain where you cannot penetrate. All the talk therapy in the world isn't going to work as long as they're
Right.
starving themselves. So it's a really insidious disease, to say the
I
least.
agree with you, not to speak so badly about my mom, but
Oh, come on.
okay, let's do it. So, when I went to, I was hospitalized for about 6 weeks. Recovery was part of a 12-step program. And so at that time, I was every day supposed to go to meetings. So I started going to AA meetings, NA meetings, I think occasionally an OA meeting, although there weren't too many of those. But and they were teaching us that we were addicted to food and, things like that. And I don't, but one thing I'm not is addicted to food in my mind. My problem is I don't want to eat. But in any event, I was working so hard to not let this overtake my life and to stay healthy. And I remember my mom saying to me, I was trying to explain to her what I had been taught and, being addicted to food. And I remember one day her saying to me, oh, fabulous. So now you're not addicted to food, you're addicted to meetings. That was the support I got.
Well, but you got to understand your mother's generation, even though
Right.
it was in the closet, way back in the deep,
Yeah.
deep, deep corner of the closet.
Yeah.
My mother told me that when she was modeling in New York, women used to have their back teeth extracted, top and bottom, so their cheeks would sink in, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
would have their lower ribs removed so their waist would be smaller because the ideal body shape was different in the 40s, obviously.
Yeah.
And so my mother, when she shared that with me, I mean, I think I was really young and I hadn't really figured things out in terms of eating disorders. I mean, nobody was talking about that. I mean, I'm a lot older you. So when I was in college, I went to a women's Catholic school. That was my first mistake. But anyway, and I had a roommate who we had our own room, but we shared a bathroom. And there was always this box of X-Lax above the sink. And I thought,
Ah,
she must be so constipated because I
yeah.
was so clueless.
Surprise. Yeah.
I was so clueless.
This is voluntary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and this was 1960. I graduated in 69. So, this would have been the early 60s, mid 60s. Yeah, mid
Yeah.
60s. But then I did have to get into this very skinny pink gown for something my last year. So I drank Pepsi and ate apples for 5 days. I got into the gown, but you know what? That wasn't a fun diet. So I sort of X'd that out. But we all did those stupid things.
Oh, and we perpetuated on TV. Remember that Lucy and Ethel episode where she had herself in this machine so she
Yes,
could
yes, yes,
shrink
yes.
herself
Oh my God,
down
I
over a
forgot
matter
about
of
that.
days to
Yep.
get in a dress? Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you go into the entertainment business and you go to Hollywood or New York or wherever you're working. And I met a woman in New York, whose name I will not repeat. She's probably long gone, who cast for a soap opera. And she said to me, oh my God, I was so young and stupid. Now I'm old and stupid, but I was young and stupid. And she
I
said
get
to me, she said, you really should have your jaw broken and reset. It will never photograph. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm 23 or whatever, and I'm thinking, okay, Jackie Onassis, Grace Kelly, Katharine Hepburn, they all had faces the shape of a block. And I'm thinking,
right.
and they didn't do too shabby. Shabby.
Right.
I just thought, if I had listened to her, oh my God. Well, if I'd found a doctor who would have done that, which probably would have hopefully been impossible. But,
Right.
it's like all the people that told Barbara Streisand to have her nose done.
I know.
I
But
mean,
it's who she is.
I know. And also, I saw her in Funny Girl when I was like 16. And I saw Michelle in How to Succeed when I was 14. Had someone told me you're going to work with her someday, because she's only 4 or 5 years older than me, I
Yeah.
would have said, get out of town. I'm going to be a special ed
Yeah.
teacher, which I was briefly. So I tell Michelle this all the time. I say,
Yeah.
it's crazy. But Barbara Streisand, when I saw her in Funny Girl, my mother took me to my first show when I was 3. I saw Peter Pan, and the music, there was a little bit of incidental music, but nothing, it wasn't a musical. It was a precursor to the Mary Martin thing. And the incidental music was written by a very young musician composer named Leonard Bernstein. That was my
Oh my
first
goodness.
Broadway show. And I used to go into New
Wow.
York all the time on the train with my friends from Connecticut and see shows thanks to my mom. I saw so much theater.
My first musical that set me on a course to love all musicals, except maybe some of the newer ones they do now that I don't understand, but was Sound of Music, the movie.
Ah,
I've probably seen it 50 times. I'm one of the ones that goes out to the park for the sing-alongs and dresses up, and I'm a weirdo. Yeah. Yeah.
my husband worked with Chris Plummer on something a long time ago. And Mr. Plummer said, oh, you mean The Sound of Mucus?
Oh, yeah. He didn't like that movie, did he? No.
And the other funny little teeny piece of trivia is, when I lived in LA, I used to get my hair cut at a place. I still go to the same person when I'm there.
Yeah.
But she's at a different shop. So I used to go to this place owned by this British guy who used to travel with Julie when she did stuff. He would do her hair.
Yeah.
He's so short. I don't know what he was doing. But anyway, he used to do her hair. So one day I'm in the shop and I go to the dressing room and the door's open and I open it up and there's Julie, bare chested. I'm like, whoa, excuse me. I'm sorry, Mary Poppins. I shouldn't have seen you that way. I'm sorry. I was so embarrassed.
Did she care?
No, she didn't care. But
Yeah.
I was very starstruck.
Yeah.
I mean, I would get starstruck. I mean, when Ava Gardner came on the show, oh my God. I rented all her movies and and she was so good to me, but she had to be a bitch towards me in the show, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah, because you were the
And-
daughter-in-law she
Oh
did
yeah,
not
no,
want.
she did not want me in the picture.
Yeah.
So she said to me, I said, Ava, I rented all your movies. I said, oh my God, One Touch of Venus. I said, geez, you were just like, took my breath away. She goes, darling, and those were my tits. I go, well, I'm sure they were, Ava. I'm happy to hear that. And then the other thing that she did one morning, I've told this story ad nauseum, but it's a wonderful story. One morning, we both had an early call. She and I, we were the only people in the makeup trailer. It was really 5 a.m. or something. But at home, my son, who was a toddler, I don't know what he had done. It couldn't have been that bad, but I slammed his bedroom door in our 1930s bungalow in Beverly Glen, and I cracked the door. I was so pissed.
Right.
I don't know why was he even up? I don't know what was going on, but he was just, and I
But what
just,
mom can't relate to that?
I know.
Yeah.
So I go to the studio and I go into the makeup trailer and I'm crying. Oh my God, I'm so upset. I got so angry at my son. And she said, what's wrong? I said, oh, I slammed the door of the thing or whatever. And I felt really guilty and shouldn't have gotten that pissed off. And I probably didn't have enough sleep,
Yeah.
but that's, Freud said an apology with a qualifier is not an apology. So I just
Right.
shouldn't have done it. So that night we are in the bedroom and the landline rings because no cell phones. And my husband picks it up. He goes, hello. Hello, darling. It's Ava. Is Constance there? And he's going,
Oh my
and
God.
she was calling to see how I was. I just
No.
got chills telling you the story. She was just checking up on me.
How awesome is that?
She was a dame. She was a broad. One of those old-fashioned
Oh
words, guys and
yeah.
dolls. She was a mensch. She was a mensch. That's what she was. One time we had a scene down at the airport at LAX, and I had Julie on one side of me and Ava on the other, and we were all at this table. Why there was the three of us, I don't know. And I said to the crew, I go, okay, excuse me. Excuse me. It does not get any better than this. We have
No
a person who has
kidding.
won more Tonys than anyone in the history for acting of the Tony, recently broken by Audra McDonald. And then we got this Fisher in the middle who just used, whatever, wherever she came from. And it's just was so, I mean, how lucky was I? How lucky was I to work with people like that? That's the thing. You get to meet these people and hopefully you're not disappointed. And they turn out to be these remarkable human beings who just take you beyond what you ever imagined it would be like to work with them or know them.
Yeah.
And and then there's the others who don't fare so well, but that's a different story.
So if you look at your acting career versus your career as an advocate for mental health and a therapist, do you find either one of them is more satisfying, or were they both equally as satisfying for different reasons?
No, I think it's apples and oranges. I think that
Yeah.
I was very blessed to do what I did before, and I'm
Mhm.
really blessed to do what I'm doing now. And I tell my clients, especially the ones in the arts, I go, I'm the best audience you could ever ask for. This is like a 45-minute play, and you're the star, and I'm totally a captive audience. And I might be a quack. There's always that chance, but you may start out crying and I will have you laughing at the end of 45 minutes, which often is the case. And I go, okay, at least I made you laugh. I made you laugh and your insurance paid for it.
Does it get any better than that? Yeah. So, do you plan to keep on working?
I'm going to sit in this chair. I'm going to be dead. They won't even know it. They'll keep talking and they won't even know that I've expired. No, I have no desire to stop. I've cut back a little. I used to see 30
Yeah.
clients a week. Now I see 20. I just feel very lucky to find two things in my life. Even the things I did before when I was a special ed teacher. This is me teaching at PS 104 in Far Rockaway.
Oh my goodness. What made you want to be a special ed teacher?
Well, my sister, because she had Down syndrome, I worked at her camp. I
Right.
sold Girl Scout cookies for her troop. I taught dance at her school, and then I taught dance for our
Yeah.
program at the Y to kids who were developmentally disabled because I used to be a dancer, so, such as it was. And, you grow up with anything, you become an expert at it. So I was really good. My sister was in the first Special Olympics ever held in Connecticut.
Really?
And I ended up getting a TV movie called Special Olympics. And I told them the same thing. I said, if you don't hire me, you're really stupid because I know more about this than anybody else. And they did.
Yes.
I was really good because I didn't have all the cockamamie theory that they teach you on paper that doesn't always work in vivo. So
Real.
I knew the tricks of the trade because I'd spent almost my entire life with my sister. Of course, my husband doesn't like this because he didn't get top billing. I go, look, I'm saying the top 5. I'm not saying in this order, although the top 2 spots are my mother and my sister. Definitely had the biggest influence on me. No
Right.
question. And then the bottom 3, in no particular order, are my husband, my acting teacher, who I was in his first class. Now he's Leonardo's coach, and a Benedictine nun in Connecticut.
Why the Benedictine nun?
Because my cousin, oh, this is such, remember Dolores Hart, the actress who was in Where the
Yes.
Boys Are?
Yes, 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 yes,
So
yes.
she became a Benedictine when she was 25, and she
Right.
entered this abbey in Connecticut, in Bethlehem,
Mhm.
Bethlehem, operative word, Bethlehem, Connecticut. And years ago, when I was living in New York, working at Saks Fifth Avenue selling belts, oh my God, I had such a checkered past.
You really do.
I know. It was just trying to keep myself afloat. A cocktail waitressing. Oh my God, so many things. I chauffeured a couple who had an apartment in New York and a house in Greenwich. I used to chauffeur them back and forth. This old Jewish couple, they drove me crazy, but they paid me well. It was nuts. But anyway, I was selling belts at Saks, my job right out of my college with my English degree. And the millinery buyer was a former actress, and she was really nice. And I said to her, I said, oh, I got to get out of this city. I mean, it's driving me crazy, but I can't afford to go anywhere. She said, there's this abbey in Connecticut. It was a monastery at the time. She said, it takes 2 hours to get there. It's a big farm. You can go there and you can work. You don't have to go to mass. You don't have to do anything. It's just, you can work on the farm. You can work and you don't pay anything. You stay in a guest house. And I go, I grew up in Connecticut. I never heard of this place. So my boyfriend at the time broke up with me. So I took the bus to Bethlehem, to Southbury, which was near Bethlehem. This nun picks me up, who drives like a bat out of hell. Turns out she was General Patton's Jeep driver when she was a nurse in World War II. That's why
You're
she drove like a
kidding.
bat out of hell. These women at this abbey, including Mother Dolores Hart, who's in her 80s now, were the most amazing group of women. And I'd say 30 people visited this place because of me, including my Jewish husband. And it is still an amazing place. So my cousin came to visit me once. She was having a very hard time. She grew up in Connecticut. Her mom had just died. She was really not in a good place. And she came to visit me while I was there. I said, why don't you come here and just spend a few days? So she wrote a note and asked if she could come back. She never left. She became the blacksmith. She's been there 35 years.
Is the farm still running the same way where you can go and
You can look them up. The women in this community are just, I met I met Patricia Neal there. She used to come there all the time because she was friends with
oh my
Dolores.
goodness.
I met Gary Cooper's daughter there because she was friends with Dolores. One time, oh my God. One time I'm talking to this Jesuit priest, this is a million years ago, and I said to him, making small talk, I go, oh, I just saw The Exorcist. Have you seen The Exorcist? He goes, I was present at the exorcism that it's based on. I went, whoa,
Wow.
whoa.
What?
Okay, that's a conversation stopper. And my sister and my mother are both buried there, which my cousin asked permission if they could be buried there. There's a very small cemetery,
Right.
mostly the sisters who have passed on. But she asked if my mother could be buried there when my mother passed away. And I said, do you think they would let my sister be buried next to my mom? And they said yes. So my sister said, when my mother was buried there, oh my God, this is another example of my sister. I got all these great flowers from Boston. I brought them up. I brought my sister. I'm going to cry because I cry when I laugh. And all the nuns are saying, there's 40 nuns. It looks like a row of penguins all standing up around the cemetery. And we're burying my mom's ashes. And I tell my sister, you can put the calla lilies on the thing. She puts the lily on my mother's grave and she goes, in a loud projecting voice, I know you love me best, Mom. And then, in case they didn't hear her, she says it again. I know you love me best, Mom. And all the nuns are smiling because my sister used to spend Christmas there when I was in LA. She would go every Christmas.
Right.
And actually, she's right. My mother did love her best. So there's been this wild blend of forces in our lives. My husband being this nice Jewish boy from upstate New York, and this nice Irish, Catholic, Swedish, Scottish person from Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that, I it worked. Whatever it is, it worked. Whatever it is.
And where did you get your incredible sense of humor?
Well, I think given some of the things, not my sister, but other things that happened to me growing up, I think I developed humor as a way to deflect, deflect, deflect. And it's a great survival technique. And sometimes I still use it, but not as much as I used to because I don't feel the need to. But when I was younger, it was a way to
Yeah.
get myself out of certain situations with certain people,
Yeah.
and it worked. And I think also when you're an attractive female and you're funny, it's a great combo if they allow you to. I
Yes.
thought Knots Landing was a comedy, but I guess I was wrong. Maybe that's why they got rid of me. I don't know.
Well, you know what's funny? Because I've heard a lot of fans say that like when they first started watching, they thought it was like going to be a comedy and it wasn't.
No,
But
but some of the stuff
there's so
was
many
so
funny moments.
melodramatic. I mean, give me a break. There was so much drama and so much Sturm and Drang and,
Oh,
but you can't send it up. You have to do it and believe it, and you have to own it, and you have to respect it.
do you have a very favorite episode of Knots that you did?
My favorite moment, and I've said this often in the past, is when Lisa and I were allegedly having a little lesbian get together. I was
Mhm.
nursing my son on the couch, really nursing him, which maybe was a first on national television. And
Yes.
she and I were sitting next to each other with our backs to the door. And John Plachette was supposed to come in the door and like, aha, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. So we both put mustaches on. She put a blonde one on, and I put a kind of a auburn red one. So we had our backs to the door. My son is nursing. She's next to me. Lisa's great. She's
Yeah.
great. She was wonderful. John comes in the door, and there's always a gag reel anyway. So obviously this was for the gag reel. And we both turn at the same time towards one another and face John. Okay. John is a consummate actor. He's wicked smart. He's very professional. He lost it. He dissolved. It was so friggin' funny. But the fact that we got him with these mustaches
That
and
is
he just
hilarious.
was totally blindsided was really golden. It was so funny. So that's my favorite thing out of 9 seasons, even though I'm sure there were other things that
Yeah.
I just remember because it was just, you need some levity. Oh my God,
Right.
Sam, who's known me for 48 years, says to me, "You're the funniest person I know." I said, "I want that on my tombstone because only
Yeah.
you and my best friend know that." Well, now you know it.
Now I
Well, I'm
know
not the
it for
funniest
sure.
person, but
No, you know what? I love to talk to women who can use humor not only as a deflection, but also to see that no matter what's going on, we got to find a way to laugh. I always say, if I don't laugh, I'm going to cry. So I would much prefer to laugh.
I mean, I say to my clients, "Do other people think you're as funny as I do?" They go, "No." I go, and I'm not laughing at them. I'm laughing because they're so adorable. They're so
Right.
cute. They come
Yeah.
on the camera, they come on the screen. I go, "Oh my God, you're so adorable. I can't stand it."
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I'm everyone's granny, I guess. But people who don't know me very well, especially when I was younger, and would meet me and think I was very shy. And you're an introvert. I'm an introvert. There's a great book
Yeah.
I want you to read, which I'm going to send to you.
Okay.
But people thought I was icy and cold and stuck up and snobby and aloof. And I was
Mhm.
just terrified. I was just like, I was just scared. I was just really shy, really, really shy. And so that got misinterpreted time and time again. I didn't really start using the F word until summer stock. Summer of 71, I learned the F word, and then I never stopped. And people are like, whoa, whoa.
Where did that come from?
But,
Yeah.
it was very freeing. And
Yeah.
for me at least.
Well, I'll tell you something funny about my husband with the F word. He hated my swearing. My husband was a retired Marine.
Wow.
2 tours in Vietnam.
Wow. Wow.
Probably the only Marine on the planet that never got a tattoo.
Ha! I was just going to ask you that. That's so
Yep.
funny.
Very gentle and was not a fan of swearing. And I'm from Jersey. We swear all the time. And every time I would use the F word, he'd go, "Nice talk from a nun's daughter." He would just like, that was his corrective action for me to like pull me out of the. He hated my swearing, like, but after a while he got used to it. It was just like, okay, whatever. This is who she is. But it's funny when I asked you earlier if you plan to work, and you were like, y'all have to die in this chair. But I get that a lot. Like people say to me, like, why do you want to do this at your age? Why do you want to run this business and blah blah blah? And I go, look, first of all, I'll be 66 in August. Here's the thing. I am going to be this age whether I'm working or I'm not. So what would you have me do? I need to be productive. I need to be a viable part of society, and I need to feel satisfied, and I need to have joy and satisfaction. So yeah, I'm like you.
Well, I think, though, the one word you didn't mention is effective. We all want to be effective.
That's a
And
really
I
good
think that
word.
whether it's, I don't know, anything, talking to the barista who seems to be having a bad day, and when you leave them, they're laughing. Or, I mean, that's so
Yeah.
treacly, but whatever. So we
Yes.
all want to be effective.
That's what Maya Angelou used to say. Like, it was one of her big things is people may not remember what you say, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
I agree with that 100%. And you have made me feel so happy today. I will tell you that. I've loved getting to know you. You're a
Thank you.
fascinating woman. And I cannot believe the number of stories that you have and your ability to tell them all so simultaneously.
I probably have undiagnosed ADHD, I'm sure.
Oh, listen, I'm pretty sure I do too, but you're funny and are you still friends with Michelle and Joan
Oh,
and
yeah.
Donna?
I just talked to Joni. Well, I sent her that fakakta Boston
Cake.
coffee cake yesterday
Yeah.
for her birthday. I also sent her the Harvard Women's Health letter because
Ah,
she was having some issues about whether to have cataract surgery. I mean, everybody has cataract surgery, but there was an
yeah.
article in one of them, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to send you this, and you can get it
Right.
every month, and it's a great publication. And then
Yeah.
Michelle, I talked to a few weeks ago. They're doing a podcast, she and Donna and Michelle and Joan. She checks in. It's really nice. I saw Donna in the desert this winter because she came for the tennis match. So she and Bill and Bill's wife and Sam and I all went out to dinner, and that was nice. Talk to Joni all the time, but I haven't seen her in a long time.
Yeah.
Not seen her in a long time. See John, Kim Langford and I did a podcast a few months ago. So she's great. She lives on a ranch in Colorado. She looks amazing. She's very happy, and she got out of LA.
Well, my goodness, I've taken up so much of your time. I have loved our conversation
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. I got a
And
headache from talking so much. Oi.
I get that too. But I so appreciate your generosity and sharing all these wonderful stories. And I am like sending you some virtual hugs here because I so appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
so
This was really
much.
easy peasy, thanks to you. You're good at what you do.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. If you liked this show, please be sure to like us, follow us, subscribe to us, give us a review, because it really helps grow our podcast.